Hello, my name is Samantha McCool, and for my oral history project, I chose to interview Ben Arculeos. Ben, what was your first teaching job and when did you start?
I started in September 1967 at Driftwood Middle School in Hollywood, Florida, and I taught seventh grade American history, and I taught eighth grade civics, which is a government course.
We have civics at my school too.
Mhm.
And what was the rest of your education career?
Well, I spent 5 years in the classroom. 4 of those were at Driftwood
Mhm.
Middle School, one at Cooper City High School in Broward County, Cooper City, Florida. As a teacher, I taught advanced world history to 10th graders. But after that first year at Cooper City, I became an assistant principal at that school. So from that point on, I was an administrator for the rest of my career, which was 33 years in length. So I went from assistant principal to principal of a middle school to principal of a high school to what we called an area director. I evaluated principals
Okay.
in secondary schools, and then area superintendent, which was a job that was just below the superintendent, in which I was responsible for 70 schools in the southern third of Broward County. So that was my career.
So you have a pretty good education experience. Why did you want to go into the education field?
Well, to tell you the truth, I did not major in education in college. I majored in government. I had a major in government, international relations, and a minor in history. And I was intending to go to law school, and while I was waiting for results of the law school aptitude test, one of my friends talked me into substitute teaching, while I was waiting for the results to come back, and I liked it so much I never left. Instead, I decided to attend graduate school and get my master's degree in school administration, which that's how I ended up in education. I really didn't intend to originally,
It just kind of happened.
but once I got involved in it, I really loved it.
Good. Explain what you think the importance of reading plays in schools.
Well, reading, I think, is the key to learning. As a principal, one thing I always told my faculty was that they were not only teachers of their own disciplines, but they were also teachers of reading and teachers of grammar. That was important
Absolutely.
to me. I really feel like reading is the key to all learning, including mathematics, science, or any other field that we provide the kids exposure to in education. So I think it's very important, not only remedial reading, but developmental reading.
Okay. Like that's the one that developmental reading can span across different content areas.
Right. And also different levels of reading skill. I think the top readers in a school still benefit from having developmental classes, developmental reading classes, because as they go on in their educational career, the reading sometimes becomes very, very technical, and sometimes very, very difficult as their level of education goes up. So I'm a proponent of reading across the board for all students.
Okay, so as a principal, how did you encourage reading as a school-wide activity?
Well, like I said, first of all, I voiced it to my staff.
Okay.
And then I asked when I was a middle school principal, particularly, I asked our reading department to come up with some types of activities that would cut across the content areas.
Okay.
So we set up a little program where the reading teachers worked with the various disciplines, social studies, which was the easiest for them to work for because it transfers so easily.
Right.
But math, science, even the industrial art, any of the subjects that we had in the school, each of those departments, the reading teachers worked with them to help them teach reading in the content area. Because a reading department in a school can't do it itself.
No.
It has to be done by the entire faculty. So we had little workshops on work days. And in our district, there was time set aside for reading.
Was that the DARE?
The DARE program,
DARE.
Drop Everything and Read.
Yep.
So that was provided by our district right there. So there was an emphasis from our district on reading. So we encouraged it quite a bit.
Yeah, ours is called Surf Time, but then on Wednesdays, instead of Surf Time, they have Sparkle Time, which is when they actually get to work on homework assignments. But we still try and encourage them to read that whole time. In my class, I was telling you that. That's exactly what they do. So how do you encourage students to become more interested in reading?
Well, naturally, the easiest way is for them to be able in school to read something that they like, which is what this Dear Time was specifically for. You know, and that is, of course, an incentive. Another incentive is to provide instruction for them that makes reading easier for them. Because if reading is easier for them and they're more skillful at reading than maybe they were previously, then they'd be more, you know, encouraged to read themselves. They would enjoy it more because it's not so difficult. I just wanted to say something else about encouraging kids to read.
Oh, okay.
Of course, you want to start that at a very early age. And of course, the best place to do that is in the home. And one of the other things we did, particularly at my middle school, we had a middle school with a lot of immigrant kids. We got the parents of a lot of our kids involved in evening classes, you know, to give them the skills to help their kids read and for them to read English themselves. So that's another thing. So the home, it can't always be done just by the school. So I think schools benefit when they provide programs for or encourage parents to work with their kids at home to read.
Okay. I think that it's very important for the parent to be involved and to have a text-rich home environment. I mean, if you have more access to text at home and a variety of texts, it plays a big role.
I think the more reading that's done at home, the better the student becomes acquainted with reading and you know, they develop skills and interests. You know, so absolutely, that's the ideal environment for a child to learn how to read really well and to learn, is to have that type of environment at home.
Well, my sister and I, we always had books around the house. Always. My mom was always reading. My dad has never been a big reader, but he always made sure that we were reading something. So it was very important for us. So do you think that reading skills transfer across content areas?
Oh, absolutely.
How do they contribute to comprehension in various contexts?
Well, just take mathematics, for instance. I mean, I know my wife, who you know, she taught geometry. Well, geometry, students have to be able to read the problems properly, understand what's being asked, and you know what the resulted expectations are for whatever problems they're working on. And you know, in mathematics, you've got to be able to read the problems in order to be able to solve them.
So do you think that weak reading skills will contribute to poor mathematics skills?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think strong reading skills contribute to success. Same thing in science. You know, you've got to be able to read. You can't just stand in front of a lab table, you know, and conduct an experiment without reading and properly comprehending and understanding what's expected. Not only that, to be able to keep the knowledge that you read up here, you know, to store it up there, and you know, not just to be able to read and understand what you're reading,
but making connections and everything.
Right. So I think it's very important across all the areas. And today, I mean, in any endeavor, you know, whatever job a person has in our world today, they better be able to read.
Right. That's what one of my questions was. Do you think that strong reading skills play a role in the real world outside of school?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think very, very much so. Particularly today, I think schools need to provide more experience in technical reading.
I couldn't agree more with you. We have, I mean, we're in such a tech-savvy age. These kids have iPads and iPhones and all this, and they're always on an electronic whatever device that they want. But we can use that to our advantage in a classroom. I mean, we can absolutely use something like that, but incorporate it with reading. I think that that's a way to get them interested and get them involved, something more hands-on. But, I mean...
There are so many manuals today, technical manuals for all the even consumer items we have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, buy an HD TV, and you know, with all the things it can do and the remote that you have with it, and you know, trying to set it all up.
Oh my gosh.
You know, you